everybody. Welcome to Tipper's first Christmas fair with some cookery tips with a twist and some Christmas dishes. And the first thing I'm going to start with is a Tarte Tatin of cranberry, Brussels sprouts and chestnuts, because kids won't eat Brussels sprouts. They're very particular about that. And I thought a nice way of getting them to eat them would be to do a sweet tart. We're going to be using knives from Arthur Price, just over there. We're going to start with these chestnuts. I've bought the ready-cooked vacuum-packed ones because they are a lot easier. And all I'm going to do with these is to just fry these lightly in some oil to start them off. I always fry my nuts before I do anything with them. It's just a personal habit. But if you fry your nuts, you'll find that you're going to bring out the natural caramel in them and the crispiness. And we're going to be cooking all this on a Rangemaster induction hob, which is fabulous. I can't see why anybody's going to be using gas in 5 years' time. You can get induction hobs in this country. And the joy of this is that it's a very, very clean surface. You just wipe it clean. The heat is only where the pan is. So round the side of the pan there is no heat at all. And if you lift the pan off, you can actually put your hand on it and it won't burn your hand. Whereas with a gas hob, you'll find that those trivets will retain the heat for quite a long time. And also, if you're doing something really messy, such as frying, you can pop a cloth underneath it here to stop it splashing, and actually it will still carry on cooking remarkably, because this works off a magnetic field rather than the heat source. So as messy as I am, if you stick a cloth under the pan, it's still carrying on cooking, and that's a really good thing to do with it actually. So these nuts, I'm just frying them off. I'm going to turn those up to number 5 and just get those going. And then in another pan, I'm going to boil some sugar. Now sugar, if you boil it to turn it into a caramel, you mustn't stir it. If you pop a spoon in there and stir it, you'll find that the sugar crystals form and it sets and it completely messes up the sugar. And for this, I'm just going to use caster sugar. You want to make sure there are no lumps in this. You've all heard of the traditional apple Tarte Tatin, haven't you? But you can also do this with cherry tomatoes, shallots and rosemary, and that's a really great vegetarian dish. I've got a demo and dine at home tonight, and I'm doing one with roast beetroot, shallots and rosemary, topped with a goat's cheese. So if you have a look at this pan, nice and hot now, I'm just going to tip the sugar in there and leave it to boil on its own. Meanwhile, these chestnuts have sautéed off, so there's quite a bit of flavour in those, because the salt's going to bring the flavour out of the chestnuts. To that I'm going to add a finely diced red onion, and when you finely dice an onion you want to keep the knob furthest away from you, and then cut towards the back but not all the way, because that knot's actually going to hold it together like that. Then we cut it in half again so we get a nice fine dice, and as you can see it's still held together. And then chop from top to bottom and you get a finely diced onion. If you pop this in the fridge next to your strawberries, when you pop your strawberries on your cornflakes tomorrow morning, it'll give you a nice infusion of onion, cornflakes and strawberries. Oh, at least you got that one. Some people write that down. It's always a bit of a worry. Okay, so these red onions are going back in the chestnuts. I'm going to saute that off for a second. Meanwhile, if you can see this sugar in here, I daren't touch it, is all of a sudden it's going to go, and it's going to go golden brown. To that we're going to add some fresh cranberries and some Brussels sprouts. And I've already cooked these sprouts off. And on Christmas Day, what you need to be doing is do as much stuff in advance as you possibly can, because you don't want the pressure of all of that. So if you cook your Brussels sprouts off the day before, so Christmas Eve or the day before that even, in boiling water as you normally would, take them out, drop them into cold water, it'll stop them cooking, and this is what you get. Little fart pills that are nice and green And it doesn't ruin the effect, madam, I can assure you. You still get the same effect on Christmas Day. But cook all your green veg off the day before, just drain it, keep it in a fridge cold, and then once you've cleared the starters on Christmas Day, drop these into a pan of boiling water, and I would put some butter in the water so that when you lift the veg out, they coat with butter automatically, and it keeps your cholesterol level nice and high. If you can see in this pan, it's started to go golden brown, so it's liquidized or become liquid. This is a pan from Waitrose, sponsored by Arthur Price. And the reason I use these pans is because you can actually pop them in the oven. The handles are great. And what I'm going to do is to pop it over the top of that and just cut round it so I know what sort of lid I'm going to do. And then take that bit away, and that goes in the bin. Or you can re-roll it and use it again, because we're all about wastage and keeping the planet green. Just take the top off this, the what have you. Obviously I made this puff pastry yesterday, rolled it and put it in a Waitrose box. But I can't really think why anybody would be making their own puff pastry today. Short pastry by all means, but puff pastry is a real wind-up. So I've cut the top of this. This again is a dish you can do a day in advance, and you can get it to the stage I'm going to get it to now. If you see with this, can you see on that how that sugar's gone? So it's beginning to form a caramel. We just mix it round, and the stage to which you get it now will depend upon how it stays. So if you get it to a light caramel, that's how it will stay in the oven. If you take it too dark, you'll find it gets really bitter. So you don't want to take it any further than the stage I'm going to get it to. And just roll it round. You cannot put a spoon in it now, because it will just go into one solid lump, and that'll be very unpleasant. And obviously, working with a Rangemaster oven and a Rangemaster pan, this is just a joy to do. Did that sound like sales technique? Okay, that's nearly ready. Okay, now that's caramelized, I'm going to pop into that the cranberries, which will now start cooking, some Brussels sprouts, and they'll start cooking. And what we want to do with these is to just heat these cranberries up till they pop, and that means they're going to release the juice. And to that I'm going to add some red wine vinegar just to give it a bit of sharpness, a bit of sweet and sour, and reduce it, and that will give you a fabulous sweet and sour flavour. But I'm also going to stick in there a wee bit of rosemary as well, just to enhance that flavour. So what I've done, I've popped the cranberries in there to just get the juices out, and then I'm going to take, so this is red wine vinegar, just pop a bit of that in there to reduce it and take the sweetness away, and give that a little shake. Okay, right, once they've reduced, those chestnuts go in there and the red onions, and I'm then going to tip this into the pan I'm going to cook it in. And can you see how all that sugar has just become complete toffee? And because I've cut this puff pastry to go over the top of that pan, that goes on the top there. Now if you were doing these the day before, that's the stage to which you would get your Tarte Tatin. Pop this in the fridge now, and then 15 minutes before you want to use it, just pop this in the oven to cook it. So I've set the oven to 180 on the top shelf, and you'll notice in this oven, can you see that little tray there? This is a great thing that saves you having to lift heavy trays of turkey in and out of the oven. Pop the plate on it that way, and then just turn the whole thing upside down, and that's your chestnut and Brussels sprout Tarte Tatin, which is very, very sexy.